Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I wanted to see if we've all used temporary tattoos in resin, and I wanted to see if it would work on something wood. So, my plan today is to take this wooden frame that I have, and first I'm going to seal it because I will be using resin later on, and I'm just going to seal it with some titanium white acrylic paint. So I'm just going to go over this real quick. I'm not worried about the back. I'm just going to do the inside because that will be kind of popping through our temporary tattoo that we're putting on there. And it's going to seal it. So I'm going to do the inside. I'm going to do around the edges, and I'm also going to do the outside edges, but not the back. So I'm going to do this real quick, and then we're going to move on to the next step after we let this dry, of course, and see if it'll stick on. Now, I know I could have very easily poured a thin layer of resin and put it onto that, but I wanted to see, just kind of experiment with it to see, because I've never used it on straight wood before, to see if it would work, later on down the road. Maybe there's something I want to do to it that I don't want to use resin on. Now, I do know that it will be sticky on top, so I will have to seal it, which is why I'm putting the resin on top of it. All right, so I have this gorgeous tattoo, and I absolutely love this picture. But I want to do it as, instead of just a normal kind of plain boring square, I want to do it as a diamond shaped. So I'm kind of just cutting around the outside, and I want to make sure that it fits in here. Now this is where it got a little tricky, because at first I started doing it to where how it was lining up for me, and then I realized that I kind of have to do it backwards because that's how we're putting it on. But I'm just trying to cut it along the shape and making sure that it's centered, which is the other hard part, because it's really hard to see through that paper that comes as the backing of the tattoo. And I want to make sure that that cross is lined up on the top, and then the middle cross on the bottom where the points are in this diamond. And then I'm just going to take off the protective film, and very carefully, without getting it onto there before I'm ready, I'm just going to kind of slowly line it up and put it on here, push it on real good, and then take a bunch of water and kind of soak it on to let it do its thing. Now, this is where I ran into some issues. And I don't know if it's because I've not used a temporary tattoo quite this big, and the paper I feel like was kind of thick. So I don't know if it's because of the paper backing that was put on here, or if it didn't like, I guess essentially it would be the paint, not necessarily the wood. But I had a hell of a time getting the temporary tattoo to come off of that paper backing. It probably took me, instead of like the 30 seconds or whatever that normal temporary tattoos, have to set in the water before they slide off, I think it took a good 5 or 6 minutes before I could actually get it to come off. And you can see, like, I keep pulling it up and checking, and it's still stuck there. And then, I'm soaking it, I'm pushing it down, I'm using my silicone tools to kind of push it, hopefully to get it to seal back on there, wetting it more, taking the water away. Like, it was a whole thing. And then finally, I started scraping the paper off the back because I thought that was the only way I was going to get to stick on there. And then finally, by accident, I kind of lifted it up, and I saw that, you can see I'm scraping the paper off now, because this is what I thought I was going to have to do, because I really like this tattoo and I didn't want to waste it. And then it just came off. But it was still kind of stuck, so I did have to use the silicone tool to kind of keep it away from the paper. Like, it was really weird. It was the weirdest thing I've had to do with this yet. Now, this looks great just how it is. I really like it. And I had played back and forth on what I wanted to do, if I wanted to keep it just this black and white, or if I wanted to do something else with it. Well, I decided that it was just a little too plain for me. So I'm going to do something else with it. But first, I need to make sure that this is completely dry. So I gave it plenty of time to dry. Now what I'm going to do is, I decided that on the corners, I want some purple around the edges kind of coming in. And then I'm going to go into gold. I started this acrylic paint, like, it's not your normal paint. It's like this pearlescent, kind of runny. As you can see, doesn't have the greatest of coverage, but it's a really, really pretty color. Now, those of you that have seen my last few videos where I use that green paint, it's the same paint that I was mixing in my resin for the candles and some other stuff, only this is purple pearlescent. So I decided that I'm going to add some glitter to it. It's going to give it a little bit of texture, hopefully a little bit of just a little bit of shine where it's not going to be, maybe covered in the paint. And then I realized I'm just going to kind of have to just, instead of being able to paint it on smooth, I'm just going to have to kind of like shove it on. So I end up doing that, and you can see through the process of me doing this, especially when I get to the gold, because I had one thought in mind and then it just kind of wasn't looking right as I was doing it. So it changes like midway through once I get the gold in there. But I think all in all, it turns out really, really nice. At this point, while I go through the painting process here, I'm just going to have some music playing, and then I'll come back to you when I start on the next steps. All right, I'm back. Do you see what I mean? How it kind of changed through? But I do like how it kind of blends. I would have liked it a little bit differently, but it is what it is. I still think it looks pretty. I did give it a good 24 hours because I applied that paint so thick to completely dry, and now I'm just going in with my Nick Pro resin because I know I'm not going to have an issue with bubbles or any of that. And I am just pouring some on here, hitting it with my heat gun to pop the bubbles that I always get just because I mix like a crazy person. And kind of thin it out, spread it out so that it hits corner to corner and I don't have to do much with it. Now, I am going to go around those 90-degree edges with my silicone tool to make sure that there's no bubbles that get stuck on the edges. And any that I see that's on the paint or on that tattoo, I'm just going to very carefully, so I don't rip the tattoo, I am going to kind of bring them up to the surface so that they pop. I will then add in the rest of the resin. I think I did like, I want to say it was like maybe 80 mils, and pour that in, pop those bubbles, and then let this baby cure. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. So I really, really like this. Like, this picture is so gorgeous. Honestly, I'm kind of thinking about getting a real tattoo of it because I really, truly do like it. Like, it's just absolutely beautiful. I love it. I really, really do. I am taking my time here, though, to make sure that there's no bubbles because, like you saw, I didn't apply this paint like flat. It does have lumps and ridges and all that from the glitter and then just from the way that I applied it. Hitting it with the heat gun one last time, letting it cure. Here we are 24 hours later. It's all nice and beautiful. Now I'm going to take some of my Nick Pro black paint and I decided that I want to do an edge with this. So I have this stencil. It's a metal stencil, which I prefer the plastic ones, quite honestly. I mean, I'm sure this has its place. I did go through a hell of a process on this part, though. I really, truly did. Once I get it lined up, I tried several different ways, and I did cut those out of the video so that you don't have to be put through all of the process that I did. I spent a good hour before I even got to this part trying to apply it. I tried to just paint it on with a paintbrush. That didn't work. It kept bleeding through, and I had to repaint the white over it probably 4 or 5 different times while trying to figure out the best way to put this on. I tried the sponge technique to try and sponge it on. It still bled under. I tried to use a paint pen, but that bled. So finally, thanks to my husband, who was incredibly smart, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, he told me to do it with a pencil and then go back and paint it on, which is what I did, and it worked beautifully. So I just took my pencil, put it around the edges. I do the 3 corners first because that 4th corner is the one that I had to repaint over in white like 4 different times. So it still needed to dry. And then I'm just going to go in with my black paint afterwards and paint it in. Turn around, touch it up with the white where I've gone over or the lines are too thick or too close to the edge. And then that's going to be it for this one. So I will come back to you guys once I am just about finished with this part. Well, guys, that's about a wrap on this one. I wish that I would have done a better job with the kind of border that I put on it. I like the idea of it. I think my execution wasn't the greatest as much as I tried, but I think from a distance anyway, it looks a lot better than it does close up because it's just not perfect. But I do like the overall appearance of it, I guess. And I don't know. It's something different, a new thing. The tattoo on the wood does work, although it was a pain in the ass, but it did work in the end. Well, that's a wrap on this one, guys. I hope you liked it. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will catch you guys on Tuesday for the next one. Love ya. Bye.